Welcome to another episode of La Ventanita, the Miami Herald food podcast. I'm Carlos Frias, the Miami Herald food editor, joined by my good buddy and sidekick, and actually the real host of this show today, Amy Reyes.
Hi.
Because we're coming at you with an all Kendall episode, baby.
All Kendall all the time.
Oh my God. I should just mute myself and just sit back for that because I don't know how we're going to peel you away from our guest today.
No, but you know something? You're the one who brought this place to everyone's attention. You're the one who sniffed out this Kendall gem. So I think, you can take as much credit as anybody.
I'll take some of that credit. That's fine. That's fine. I don't mind it. Look, if it means I get to eat delicious barbecue, then I'm down for it.
I'm saying you'll drive that far, won't you?
I will get my stamp board passed. I will get my stamp board passed for that. I passed for stamp for that. So I don't know. We have a couple things to catch up on since last week. I mean, last week was kind of a crazy week. And we're trying to get back to the, having a guest on. Although I kind of liked our banter show.
I enjoyed bantering with you, Carlos.
Did the people like the banter show? I think
they did. I think they like to hear us blather on about food and stuff.
Okay.
I think it's okay. I think the people liked it.
We'll do a repeat of that.
I don't think that they didn't. I don't think that they hated it.
Right. They did not like it.
They did not like it. That's kind of where the bar is.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
So we this is something that I think we touched on last week. Let's start with Nino Pernetti. It's kind of a sad start, but let's talk about that first because it's the kind of the biggest news of the week. So Nino Pernetti, the owner of Cafe Abbracci. It's really one of those iconic restaurants in Coral Gables. It's the place where like all the politicians and athletes and celebrities quietly to go to have dinner and not be interrupted. But it's also a big favorite for locals. But Nino Pernetti died at the age of 76. He contracted COVID within days of a vaccine being approved and announced in December of 2020, and he was looking forward to taking it. He was, he owns a restaurant and he loves being around people, and he just, but he got COVID in the days before, like right around the time it was announced, and his body was so wrecked by it, his lungs, his heart were affected, that he just never recovered. So he was quote unquote cured of COVID, but the after effects, he never fully recovered. He'd been in and out of hospitals and rehabs, and we wrote a big story about him in January about how he had been in this 18-month fight. I mean, a year and a half, Amy, and finally on May 31st he died in rehab. So. We think about him and his family. We think about his family, his two daughters, and his ex-wife, who actually was a caregiver to him at the end. And we thank him for everything he did for Miami's culture and food culture, and frankly for just being a really nice guy.
Yeah, it was an iconic restaurant, and I think that most of the reason why people loved the place so much was just the way he made you feel when you went there.
You know what? That place was so interesting to me because the entire time that I knew it had no windows. So you drove by, and that was one of the guessing games of like what's going on inside Cafe Abbracci, because outside there'd be Ferraris and Porsches and Rolls Royces and Bentleys getting valeted on this tiny little restaurant. I think it's got to be like a 50, 60 seat restaurant. It can't be more than that. And inside was this. It's all like paneled in acoustics, so like if you're having a conversation, that conversation dies in that booth, like it's totally like library hush tones, and he kind of just created this place where it was not pretentious. The food was it was not out of this world, but it was like very fine, very well done North Italian cuisine, and really the whole thing was discretion. Like 3 U.S. presidents went there, and it's because you knew whether you were, whether you were W or LeBron James, if you were sitting at seat 1B, nobody was gonna bother you.
There were no groupies over there trying to get your autograph.
No, he'd post a waiter right by that table if there was somebody like really well known.
He wasn't playing around. Well, I think Cafe Abbracci, and they never posted a waiter by my table. I guess I wasn't famous enough.
But now, after this Kendall
I'm
podcast,
saying.
yeah, all bets are off.
Well, good luck to his daughters. They you reported that they wanted to keep they're going to keep the restaurant open. They're going to keep the tradition going.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, the staff that works there are a lot of people who have been working there for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
I mean, the place has been open 32 years, and the general manager's been there for 31.
Right.
You know, so like those people.
It's a
can
well-oiled
keep it,
machine.
Yeah. But really, what people came for was like his level of like this familiar hospitality, but also not overly familiar. Like he made you feel welcome, but also gave you your space.
He wasn't up in your business.
No, he was really a study in that kind of hospitality, or like that very old school hospitality. You know, where you're there when you're needed and you're kind of disappeared when you're not. And
right.
And people, you know, he had a second restaurant before Abarachi, and he realized that and they were a couple blocks apart, and he realized that whichever restaurant he was, reservations moved to that one. So he was the draw. People wanted to be there for him. So we'll see if that's something that the daughters can keep. His oldest daughter used to take her to all the tables with him.
Aww.
You know, and because he would come and he would sit at your table for a while and he would talk with you know if the situation appeared right, and he would bring his daughter, and she seems to have that gregarious personality. So
well, that's good.
I think they have a shot.
It's the end of an era in Miami's history, but like I feel like they can, you know, she's probably studied him enough to know how to be hospitable in the way that her dad was.
Yeah, we'll see. She's in law school now, so I mean, a lot of things can change.
Yeah, for sure.
So what were we talking about all last week, Amy? Opalaka. Hialeah. Opalaka Hialeah is the place to go. So we know the place closed, but I was so curious. I think I'm the only person in the world.
The place isn't closed yet. We just
no.
They're closing at the end of the month, and those vendors have 20 days to figure themselves out because it's closing to the public on June 20th. And then the vendors have to figure out, you know, they got 10 days to pack up, you know, years and years worth of merchandise and move someplace else. It's a real bummer, this place closing. It's like a big piece of, it seems like a real like a source of revenue for a lot of people who just couldn't afford to have their own businesses and under other circumstances. So it's a really sad story. However, you know what will live on forever is that jingle.
That jingle will live on forever. And I don't know, was it just me? I'm still trying to figure out whether people cared about that story, but I was genuinely curious about the story of that jingle. I mean, when something is such an earworm and is so iconic, I just naturally started thinking, like, where did this come from? Whose idea was this? And I mean, the long and the short of it, and this is like not confirmed by his people, but it's not confirmed that Willie Chirino rewrote the Spanish version of that song. There's a Spanish version. And actually recorded the voice for that song. And his people are I reached out to him, very nice guy. He's like, look, I played it for Willie. He can't say that it is or it isn't. You know, it was 40 years ago. He says he doesn't remember. That all to me sounds like that was me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was so busy. He was so busy in the 90s trying to get his hustle on that he has so many jobs he can't remember what he did. And he did the flea market song.
He did the flea market
song. In the whole course of his, you know, his hustle.
I really feel like that's partially attributed to him.
I don't think it's wrong. Oh, listen to this. This week I had the most amazing Arts Center experience. You know what they're playing at the Arts Center?
Oh God, what are they playing?
Jesus Christ, Superstar. Who are you writing something? Okay, that's how it goes ish. But yeah, Jesus Christ Superstar is one of those musicals like Hamilton and like the Book of Mormon that I get really geeked about. And so I went to see the musical and it was awesome, obviously. But I just wanted to tell you that I had my first Brava experience. Like Brava's that restaurant that's on the second floor of the Arts Center.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and like since I am a musical person, like I like to go to musicals depending. Like I have a few that I just won't mess with. But so I usually
Cats. You're not a Cats person?
No, I will not.
No Cats. Rum Tum Tugger or Rum Tum Tumbler, whatever his name was.
I don't even know what you're talking about right now. No Cats. I don't even know what that's about.
I went to that play not knowing that it was a string of short stories and that
Yes.
there was no through line, and I'm like,
No,
what is happening?
I don't even know what you're talking about. I just
All
know that
right,
people dress up like cats, and I'm not about
don't
that.
go to
And
that.
oh my God, dude, in the 80s in Detroit, there was a run of cats at one of the like local big theaters, and they had commercials, and I was like, what is happening? Like
Hmm.
sorry, I'm talking about cats so much, but like cats was it was that disturbing to me to see those commercials that I was just like, I would never see this musical.
I
Jesus
remember
Christ
that.
Superstar
I
over.
remember that as a kid seeing those commercials and being
You
like,
remember a commercial for cats?
I do.
It
It
was
was very like epic, and like the
yeah,
cats
yeah,
were,
yeah.
yes, it
It was
was.
like and with the cats doing their cats thing. Yeah, no,
It was epic and terrifying, kind of.
yeah, it was bad, bad, bad.
Yeah. So, but Jesus
Anyway,
Christ Superstar is great, and you went to Brava.
I went to Brava,
What was
and
that
I
like?
have to
Because
say,
Brad Kilgore's not involved there anymore, as
I
far as
don't
I.
think so. I will say this: it is a beautiful place. It was super convenient for like your theater experience. It was a good experience altogether. Like I
Hmm.
really enjoyed my experience at Brava. Like normally what I would do in before times when Books and Books was open is I get a table at Books and Books and get like a more low key meal because like I'm you're already at the theater, you're gonna pay like $25 for valet, so I usually would go to Books and Books, get some fried pickles, a glass of wine, and maybe like a Sammy or something like that. But this was like a real upgrade, like a
Oh,
major
nice.
upgrade. Yeah,
Okay.
it was nice, and I got obviously I found the one dish that had mashed potatoes, and I went ham because that's what I do.
Potatoes, more potatoes, please.
Yes, yeah. So I got the salmon, and it had these mashed potatoes that were mashed within like an inch of their lives. They were no longer. It was like almost like baby food mashed potatoes, but
Mm.
it was so good, and I really like ate everything on my plate. It was. I would say Brava is a good experience for before a show. Obviously, nobody's gonna go there unless they're about to go see something at the Arts Center. So
Right, right.
but like as experiences go, I thought it was good.
I miss Brad Kilgore's food. I hope that he opens another restaurant. He's, you know what, he's the chef at, there's like a super exclusive racetrack by the Opelika Airport.
Oh yeah.
Opelika, a super exclusive. There's a racetrack where people like super rich guys, and race car drivers will have like their fancy cars, their Ferraris. So not their race cars, but like their Ferraris and their Bugattis and their Bentleys, and of course
They go to
there's a fancy restaurant there, and he
oh,
does
okay.
the food at that restaurant. So that's mainly what he's been doing, from what I can tell. He's not returning my phone calls, so I don't know what's up with that.
You
It's
don't want to
odd.
talk to you.
I don't know. I did nothing but write nice things about him because there was only nice things to write about, and then his restaurant's closed, and he forgot my number. I was
Oh,
like,
well,
"Take my name out your mouth."
shut up. He forgot all about you. He's like, who
I
this?
was like, "Dude, it's just a joke." No, he just forgot all about me. But
Oh,
I am, but selfishly, food wise, I'm hopeful that he'll open another restaurant that we
you're
can
like
go to.
one day.
Yeah. Are we done with things? Can we talk
Yeah,
with
we're
Harry?
down. We reached peak banter. We
All right.
need to go take it to Kendall now.
Let's do it. Let's do it. It's the All Kendo Show, folks. So our guest today is Harry Coleman. So Harry is making some of the best barbecue anywhere in South Florida at his Kendall, yes, Kendall restaurant, Smoke and Dough. And he's making some of the most unique empanadas at his restaurant next door, Empanada Harry's. And what makes both special is he tries to bring a multicultural element to his food that reflects Miami. Although he's Venezuelan, he bakes empanadas from all different Latin American styles, from crispy Colombian and Cuban to powder coated Chilean empanadas, where his family's originally from. And in between, he throws in his own mixes, like this decadent truffle mac and bacon and this goat cheese and bacon date empanada. It's ridiculous. And same thing at Smoke and Dough. He barbecues dishes like a cafecito rubbed brisket, timba, guava, and cheese sausage, which is amazing, and a smoked flan that you would sell your children for. And he comes from a long line of bakers going back to Chile, where like I said, where his family is originally from. But he kind of took a circuitous route to get there. He and his wife Michelle started out as journalists, and they got in the family biz when no one was hiring, and they started doing their own kind of empanadas. Even after his dad was like, "You can't, you got to make one kind of empanada," but he did his own thing. And then just before the pandemic opened, I'm sorry, just before opening Smoke and Dough, like which was delayed by the pandemic, he had a heart attack that almost killed him, and he's in his 30s. But let's not start with the heavy stuff. Let's welcome Harry Coleman. What's up, Harry?
Hey guys, hey Carlos, Amy, thank you. That was too nice. But going back to what Amy said, Carlos, he put us on the map. You along with Burger Beast, Seth
Burger Beast,
and Kiko from Telemundo are my three biggest supporters, and that really helped get this little place in the middle of Kendall, in a shopping center that doesn't have a great anchor and bring people from Miami. So I'm truly grateful for that.
Well, I was going to say Burger Beast gets a lot of the credit because I think Kiko lives out there.
Yes, he used to. Yeah.
And I found out about it later. But Burger Beast, who is not the most social of animals, got in his car and drove through into the kingdom of Kendall, all the way over,
all the way from Westchester
to discover the empanadas and
across the border.
Yeah, so that's why he's a past guest and he's an OG. So
yes, well, he's done so much for so many places in Miami and doesn't ask for one dime. So that's something that one of the good guys.
Yeah, he just reviews places, like he started writing about places just because he liked them and he thought it would be fun to do. That's pretty great.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Amy, so ask him the question. What's so great about Kendall?
Please tell us.
I live in this area. Obviously, our kids go to school here. Everything is here. And it's just an area where I know a lot of people that work in downtown or Brickell come here. And it's a very family-oriented. Before this, we worked in the beach for many years. And even though we had a lot of our same customers, it wasn't like we go to Publix and I run into customers. We go to, a restaurant here in Kendall, we run into our people. And we go to the schools, the principal knows you because, they come here and the teachers. And it's just a nice little environment. And everybody really looks out for one another and I think wants to support one another. It's for Michelle and I, it's been a blessing, to open here. And don't get me wrong, we were very scared in the beginning. We were here painting, we didn't have money in the beginning to hire painters. And I remember being here at 10 in the morning painting with Michelle, nobody in sight. And I go to Michelle, I don't know if we made the right choice, opening here. There's nobody. And it took a little bit for people to get the show. But then once they did, it felt rewarding for us, especially coming from South Beach when it's a completely different animal.
Right. But you come from a long line of bakers, right? Like your baking family. How does that go back? Wasn't it your grandmother? She's Chilean, right?
Yeah.
And you were baking
so my
in Chile?
my grandma had bakeries in Chile and Venezuela and here in Miami. And my dad, even though my family's from Chile, he followed my mom to Venezuela and then learned at the bakeries of my grandmother there. And then in '89, he got hired by a two-story, one of the first Venezuelan places to open in Coral Gables. It was a bakery that lasted a year and maybe a year. And it was, 5 owners, didn't work out. So my dad opened his own thing, Moises Bakery. And I grew up there. We had no babysitters. So I was there every weekend when there wasn't school, doing whatever I could. And growing up, I always wanted to do my own thing, which is why we went to journalism. Right. But at the end, I loved the food so much, right? And loved the scene and my dad teaching me. And I came back. I'm happy I have my degree, but it was something special to continue the family tradition.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, you said you grew up in the bakery. What made you want to do your own thing to begin with? Because like you said, you studied journalism. You and Michelle, your wife and your partner there.
It's hard work. My dad has worked every Christmas, New Year, Thanksgiving since 1991. And I've worked them since 2003. We do a lot of catering. It's a big time, a big responsibility for us. Yeah. And it's if you have the grind to do it, it's very rewarding, but it's very tough. And even my dad always goes, I want you to get your degree because I don't want you to be working every Saturday, every Sunday, every holiday. And, I understood it. And then even when I got my degree and I told them I was going to give it a shot at the bakery because my grandma's bakery with my parents was struggling in South Beach.
I was like, Charlotte Bakery, right?
Right, yeah, which we sold since because we opened Empanada Harry's and they were going to build a hotel there. That's what made me open Empanada Harry's, right? Sometimes life throws you difficulties because the Jimmy Resnick, the shopping center owner goes, hey, we're gonna build a hotel here in the future, so the business has to go. And Michelle and I looked at us, each other, and we were like, what are we gonna do? Right. And that motivated us. You know what? Let's open our own place. Let's do it our way, the same traditions, but spice it up a little bit and open it in our side of town because we would, commute every day an hour to South Beach.
That sounds
So
horrible. I'm surprised that
it's awful.
two young guys like you guys didn't just like move into a studio apartment on South Beach or something and just
You know,
like
we
live
we
that
did it
South
for
Beach life.
we did it for 6 months, and I
They like
just
Kendall too much.
yes, living in this area, it's just different, man. And growing up in this area, and Fontainebleau too. We used to live in Fontainebleau. It was just I couldn't adapt, and I couldn't imagine myself having kids growing up in South Beach. It
Where did you
wasn't.
look? Where did you look besides Kendall when you were trying to open Empanada Harry's? Were you looking? Were you looking in like any
Well,
place
we
west?
we we lived in this area, so we were. My original thought was Fontainebleau because I grew up there, and I was like, Fontainebleau is close to Doral. A lot of, I definitely didn't want Doral because it's very congested. And one day we saw the shopping center, and it said, for rent, and I was like, okay, let's go check it out. It was at the time it was a very dead shopping center, not much movement in this area, but it was a good price, and we didn't have to pay a key fee, which as some people know, sometimes you have to pay $50,000, $75,000 just to get the key. The shopping center owner goes, you can have it. They're leaving, and obviously we had to build it out, and it was very tough in that sense. But we're like, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna, when Carlos mentioned my dad stuff, my dad's like, you had to have cakes, and you have to have this, and I was like, I don't want to do the cakes, I don't want to do all the milojas and all the sweets. I want to focus on empanadas. And my dad's like, you can't just have empanadas. And I go, we're gonna have tequeños, we're gonna have other things, but empanadas are gonna be what we want to showcase, right? Because especially the melting pot of Miami, all the people that live here, and for the most part, you could only get a Peruvian empanada, a Peruvian place, a Venezuelan, and etc. And I figured, why can't a Colombian, gentleman come with his girlfriend who's Chilean, and both of them eat their empanadas, right? And then throw our mixes, our creative mixes. And my dad wasn't too sure about it. Michelle and I, we were like, we're going to do this. It was our money in the end. So, we were going to do what we
Whatever you're gonna
wanted.
do.
But
It's my life, Dad.
yes.
Gonna make
And,
empanadas, dude.
and it's that old school mentality that it's
Yeah.
worked for so many years, and it's great. And you go to Moises, and it's the same as it was in 1992, and it's great. I don't want him to change it, but we wanted to. Michelle always says, bring this, the bakery to this century. It doesn't have to always be the same way all bakeries have been ran, and it took a little bit. Don't get me wrong. In the beginning, people didn't understand it, and little by little it worked out, and we're blessed to have been here.
Have you ever tried Millie's empanadas? Have you been to that place over
Yes, I
by
have.
Cookie?
Yes, and now they open not too far from us.
Yeah. Oh, they're on Miller, or where are they at now? Because they moved.
I think they were there. Now I think they're on Bird Road. The same.
That used to be my post-cycling indulgence.
Oh, nice, because it was like near the golf course.
Right. Yeah, it was
Right.
right there.
Yeah.
That place was good. Those empanadas
Yes.
are good.
So
Where are they?
are we gonna have color wars now? Or are you gonna be like it's gonna be like
Me and Millie.
A showdown.
that's it, a Millie's and Empanada Harry's showdown. Like I'll cut you for those empanadas.
I don't know. I think he's winning because he's got that smoking dough.
No, everybody has their own. What I love about Miami is that everybody can have their own take, and that's what makes this town beautiful, right? Like they have Venezuelan, we have Venezuelan, but it's different. And like I always tell people, at least I wanted to make sure we had all those countries represented too.
Right.
Right.
No, I mean you go to Millie's for a Venezuelan empanada.
Right.
You go for the ones that have the maicena on the outside, or whatever that is, the corn
Corn
meal.
flour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, those are good. But after I eat those, I feel like a real fatty.
Well, and people love the baked ones. It's baked empanadas are still our best seller.
I pretend like those are healthy, and I'll eat like 3 of them.
These are baked. They're healthy for me. Forget
Yeah.
all the goodness and fat in them.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Wait, do you ever? Because I remember that you did do some journalism for a while. You were a sports journalist. You were freelancing. You were working for the Sun Sentinel for a minute. Do you ever miss that? Do you have like a favorite memory that you still hold? Like, being in like a locker room memory or meeting a certain athlete or whatever that.
Well,
made an
my most infamous memory is remembering when Nick Saban said he wasn't going to be the Alabama coach. I was
Oh
there.
my God, were you there? I was there at that press conference also.
I was there, and Dave Hyde was the only one with the cojones. Because before it started, everybody's like, "Who's going to ask him?" And everybody was afraid a little bit of Saban because he was so, the way he is still today. And Dave Hyde was the only one, and I was like, yeah, like he asked
That's
it.
our
And
guy.
that was fun. But I did copy editing too, and I would go in the locker rooms and stuff. But when I was doing the Dolphins, I grew up a Dolphins fan, Dan Marino.
Sure,
And
of
when I was
course.
interviewing the players in the locker rooms, I realized, man, like there were some really nice guys, like Channing Crowder, one of the nicest guys to interview, but some of the other guys were tough. And growing up, loving the team, it was like, wow, this is not what I imagined, right? Like you have this perception that you're going to be interviewing all these athletes, and like I said, some are great. But I was like, man, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I
You
enjoyed
thought
the
you were
run.
going to have nice, relaxing conversations
Right,
with them. For the
right.
most part, they treat you with contempt. Nobody,
Yeah,
you got to see for a guy who makes his own sausage at Smoke and Dough. You got to see how the
I was
sports
gonna say,
sausage
yeah,
right.
gets
you
made.
ruined sports for yourself by
Yeah.
getting too close to
So that part was a little
too close to
tough,
the
but I
validation.
loved, like you, Carlos, interviewing people and getting stories and all that we apply that degree, right? We apply to here because the food business is very similar. We talk to people, talk to our customers, find out their stories. We do our own menus. We use our newspaper InDesign programs to design our own menus, design our own ads. So at least, like I always tell people, we do put our degree to use, right? Just in a different fashion. But it was fun, man. I worked at the Sentinel since my sophomore year at FIU, and I loved every minute of it. But I'm so happy to be in the restaurant world.
Oh, Burger Beast is telling us to ask you about your ham and cheese sandwich.
Oh, it's a burger beast. He says that his favorite thing here is the ham and cheese, and I just want to hit him across the face.
Well, he said ham and cheese sandwich,
Right,
which
right.
is an empanada.
So is that an
Empanada is a
empanada, right?
yeah, an empanada is a sandwich.
Unfortunately, he likes it with bread, not the empanada version.
Oh, is it good though? Should I order the ham and cheese sandwich?
No, it's not good. Don't get that. If you come here, get the better stuff.
Get an empanada if you're at Empanada Harry's.
Yes,
You-
get a
you
good
were-
empanada, eat a brisket sandwich. Don't eat, get the Reuben sandwich. Don't get the ham and cheese.
Oh, okay. Are you doing a Reuben sandwich now? Are you doing
Yes,
it? Are you doing with your
yes.
own? Because I was on you. Like you made
Yes.
you made your own pastrami, and it was so delicious. And you were like, please eat it on its own, and I did. And then I went out and I bought some rye, and I
You
made
did
a
it.
sandwich at home, and it was amazing. And I was like, dude, you need to make. You
So
need to do a
so
Reuben
so we
sandwich.
started making it, and it's actually become our best-selling sandwich, right?
Oh, look
So-
at that!
so-
Big
So
surprise.
you were right.
Oh,
You
big
were right.
surprise.
And so it's actually the pastrami on rye is the best-selling. And the Reuben sells too, but the pastrami on rye
I got
is
I
it's just
think
mustard,
Carlos
pastrami,
might be
and
a
bread.
genius. It's
What's that?
possible. And
What's
Carlos
that?
might be a genius.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm actually a professional critic. I was gonna say because I can critique anybody and tell them how they should be doing it better. But I was honestly like, this is so good, and honestly, it's so hard to find a really great
Yeah.
pastrami sandwich. With just I don't know if you do it with just how do you do it? How do you do your pastrami
So,
sandwich?
so we get briskets, we trim them, we brine them for 7 nights, 8 days. I smoke them, then I take them out at 180 and I steam it the rest of the way up to like 200. And apparently that's the traditional way of doing it, where you would smoke it and steam it. Luckily, we have a an oven here that steams, so I have the luxury you could do it. Otherwise, you could just smoke it the whole way. But it definitely takes a good 8 days to do a good brisket pastrami. And what we love here is educating people, because sometimes people don't know that it's made out of brisket, or they just think pastrami is the cut. And I always tell people it's not like the boar's head version. This is something different.
Right.
And people have really, really, really enjoyed it. And I think part of our thing has been too that we're educating people on barbecue, and that's not a knock on people. It's just not a Miami thing. And luckily, Michelle and I, we traveled out, we studied it, because I wanted to make sure if we were going to do barbecue, it wasn't going to be, oh, the empanada guy makes good empanadas, but his brisket sucks, right? so I wanted to make sure that if we were going to do something, we were going to do it the right way.
Right. And you went to like a thing that nobody knew existed, which is barbecue school. So like basically like training, but it's not just like for Joe Schmo who doesn't know how to barbecue. It's for people
Right.
who already own restaurants to
Yes.
teach them how to improve their barbecue to make it like, like
Yeah,
world
because
class level.
it wasn't even about the barbecue part. It was, the before and the after, right? Because you smoke a brisket for 15 hours. How do you hold it for service to serve that amazing brisket?
For
you
the
know,
next 10 hours of the day,
right.
basically. Yeah.
Because you can't, you don't want to reheat it. You don't want to throw it on the plancha. And the biggest part is how are we going to do this and do it the right way? So
Right.
we went to Oklahoma. Those guys were amazing. One of the guys was Butcher Barbecue, who won 2019 Jack Daniel's Barbecue Invitational. So we used, his smokers, and we wanted to make sure that, it luckily because of the pandemic and everything, it gave us almost 4 years to really change up the way we were going to do it, and the way we started smoking to now has changed. There's certain things that we've learned along the way, just like the empanadas. There's things that we do differently from where we began, and I think that's the beauty. So I think definitely now we're serving the best barbecue that we have done, because we've had so much practice doing so many briskets daily. You finally get the hang of it.
And we're talking about briskets, but you make a lot of different things. But brisket is
Yes.
the one that we talk about because that is so hard to do right, right? Because
Right.
brisket is really two cuts of meat. It's like a leaner one and a fattier one. It's almost like two separate muscles that just happen to be
Yes.
united by this thin sliver of fat. So learning how to cook that is amazing. So one of the first places down here to do it really, like technically by the book, was Hometown Barbecue,
Agree.
and
Yes.
it's just like salt and black pepper. Like that's it. That's the ingredients. But then these guys drinking pig added, like right around the time you were getting ready to open, they did a similar thing where they were like, we're Caribbean, we're Miami. Miami has its own flavor profile, right? And where they added different kind of spice rubs, and you did a similar thing. Like that's what makes your brisket so good. Is well, one of the things you do is you rub it with like espresso
The
coffee,
Cuban coffee, right?
Cuban
the
coffee.
cafecito. And it gives it such a good bark that it comes out nice and dark. And if you look at it, you can think, oh my God, this guy burned it. But once you cut it, it's like I said, like we wanted to, and I love Texas barbecue, Kansas City, Carolinas. But I told my wife, if we're gonna do this, it has to be our way, and more of a Miami way, right? I don't wanna. I'm not from Texas. I'm not gonna pretend I grew up there and do Texas barbecue. Grew up in Miami, and I wanted to do something good. And the funny thing, mentioning the Drinking Pig and Hometown, when we announced we were going to open, there was no barbecue besides, Shivers and Shorties and all
Right.
those places. And, due to Franklin and all the popularity, barbecue has gained in the last 5, 8 years. Obviously, a lot more barbecue joints popped up in Miami,
Right.
and it's great because they're all great in their own particular way, right? They all have their specialties, and I wanted to make sure we did some, we could, match our brisket up against anybody. But I wanted to smoke duck, and I wanted to add guava to our ribs, and I wanted to have smoked tequeños, and I wanted to smoke our croqueta. I wanted to make sure we were different, and I think that's, doing the duck, for example. I thought it wasn't gonna sell. I'm like, this item's not gonna sell, and luckily, even the duck sells excellent now, and I'm very proud of the duck. And if you're adventurous enough to try it, and those are the things that make you happy, right? When you do different things, and we did a smoked pate, and it was excellent, but people are afraid of chicken liver, and we took that one off the menu.
Right.
We'll revisit that one day, but and it was excellent. But sometimes some things don't work, and as a restaurant, you adapt and you change. But that's what we wanted to do.
That
What?
happens in I was gonna say that happens in journalism too. Like you'll write a story and that you read and your people read and you're like, this is a good topic, but people don't, for whatever reason, they don't get it.
We're
They
more
didn't get it.
and they are. Yeah.
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 I was gonna ask you, Harry, like what does the espresso coffee, like what does it do to the flavor of the brisket? Like aside from aesthetically making it dark, like what does it do to the actual flavor of the meat?
I always tell people it doesn't taste like coffee, because some people are afraid they're going to eat it and it's going to feel like coffee. It doesn't taste like coffee. It really gives you a nice bark. So it gives you a nice almost bite, right? So it's moist inside, but you get a nice initial bite from the bark. So for me, I think it's more about the bite than the flavor.
Like the texture that it gives, that
Right.
kind of thing.
It's a texture.
Aesthetically.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I've done it without the cafecito, and I could feel the difference, for example.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
What brand do you use? Like La Llave, Yulong?
No, actually, we use a Cuban brand that right now, off the top of my head, I don't remember the name.
Okay.
But we switched from Bustelo years ago. We used to always use Bustelo maybe, 3 years ago. We went to a more local company because Bustelo sold to Dunkin' and things changed a little bit. And we went to I wanted to go with a more local company that gave us better attention. And I think their coffee's, is excellent.
Oh, that's awesome. So you had this, this thing happened kind of as you were getting ready to smoke and open Smoke and Dough. Where you had a heart attack. And Harry, you're what, 30? I mean, look at you. You look like a baby.
When
I
he
had it at
he lost
37.
it was like, this guy had a heart attack. He looks
Yeah.
like,
Yes, exactly. It makes you want to go to the doctor like right now.
I know immediately.
So
Yes.
so and I mean, you've told me a little bit. You've told me the backstory of it, but take me through it again. Like there was no. This is one of the things that comes with no warning sign, right?
At least for me, it didn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't drastically overweight. My cholesterol wasn't bad, So, in that sense, the doctor, said there was no explanation.
Right.
But we ended up finding out my great grandfather died at 35 in Chile of a heart attack.
Wow.
So the doctors, pretty much said it was very hereditary. That
Oh,
at
wow.
my age, there's no way, you're supposed to get a heart attack, right? So I didn't know this, luckily, when I was having one. But with age, your heart makes more vessels in order to sustain a heart attack. And that starts at about 47 years old. So usually anybody under 40 pretty much doesn't, like the doctor said 99% don't make it under 40.
Because your heart's not wired to survive
To
a
survive
heart
it.
attack. Because when you get older and your heart, you start eating so much crap, your heart starts creating its own bypass.
Right, amazing, right?
Yeah.
Your heart prepares itself. At
Yeah.
this age, it doesn't. And I was 100% clogged in the Widowmaker. Imagine, they call it the Widowmaker.
That ain't fun. And you're married and you have kids.
And I'm married with
So
kids.
You
and
almost made a widow.
This happened in the middle of the ocean. So Michelle and I, we went to Naples. We rented a boat. We were getting ready to open Smoke and Dough in 2 or 3 weeks. So we went to get away to refresh, come back and open. And I was lifting the anchor, pretty much in the middle of the ocean, and it was stuck to the sand, right? So I used all my force, and once I got it up, I threw up, and the pain chest was just an immediate pain right here that it was awful. And I told Michelle, man, this must feel like what a heart attack feels, not knowing
my
it was
God.
a heart attack. Yeah, it was.
You thought you wrenched a muscle or something.
Yeah, I thought I pulled something, and it wasn't going away. Maybe I thought it was, motion sickness from the boat, and it was just the two of us. And I'm not a boat guy, right? So I'm not this expert on, in the middle of the ocean. And I dove in the middle of the ocean because I go, Michelle, let me see if the water refreshing. Which imagine that, me, swimming in the middle of the ocean with a heart attack.
Currently having a heart attack.
Yeah, and
Let me go for a swim.
So I could talk about it now, but it's one of those moments. It happened October 2nd, so it hasn't even been a year. And I got on the boat. Michelle goes, I'm going to give you 15 minutes to see if it goes away. And when it didn't, I told her, find the nearest beach. So luckily we parked, and I think it was Sanibel or Captiva. And luckily there was road access. And we called the ambulance, and she said, it looks a little weird. I'm going to take you in. And then halfway in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, she goes, oh my God, you're having a heart attack. So she starts feeding me these pills and all these things.
Right?
I almost felt I was, losing. Like I felt I was going away. When you're going to sleep and I almost felt like, oh my God, that was the first moment I felt I don't feel like I'm gonna make it. And we get to the hospital. It was very ER. The whole staff was waiting for me outside. They bring me in, and the doctor goes, "You're having a heart attack." And imagine me. I go, "Are you sure I'm having a heart attack?" To the doctor. I'm 37. Like,
yes, listen, Empanada man. I got this medical thing.
And he goes, "We need to take you in right now. Every second, counts." And I'm like, "Okay, take me in." And the moment they went in through my arm, luckily they didn't have to. Open heart is the last option. And they went in through my arm, and they unclogged it and put a stent. And then the doctor told me there was no, there was, there was no explanation, why I'm here. Sorry to get emotional.
No, it's
But,
I mean, that's you and your wife lived through the scariest thing that can happen. I mean, it literally is the scariest thing that can happen. So I think it's natural to
imagine
to even think about it.
Yeah, I'm thinking my wife, where the business is, my kids. I'm like, can't go right now because the doctor. I go to the doctor. What's my, what are the odds? And he goes, 1 in 1,000. And I go, well, that's not as good as I thought it was gonna. I don't know. I wanted like 1 in 50,000. You hear that, and I was like, okay.
From the moment you felt the pain to the moment that they put the they put the stent in you, like how much time elapsed?
So luckily, I went in within 2 hours, or just about the 2 hour mark, and apparently that's the gold
Okay.
standard.
I got you.
Apparently, for any men out there, if you feel a chest pain, they were explaining to me some men, obviously if you don't just collapse in the moment, if you're still up,
Mobile. Yeah.
Yeah.
mobile, right? Some men go home, pop a couple, pills, lay down, and the pain will never go away unless you have an intervention.
Right. They
And
literally, in those that's why in most cases people are young. They have this kind of heart attack.
right.
They take a nap and they never wake up.
And they never
Basically.
wake up.
and
Yeah.
and even if you do wake up, by the time you go to the hospital, your heart has,
So much damage. Yeah.
so much damage that you're not covered. When I left the hospital, I think he told me my heart was at 45%. And I went back in late January, and he told me it was near 100% levels now.
Wow. Wow.
So
That's such a
yes,
man.
so
Wow.
I'm lucky that I
Mental.
recovered, and and it was a dark time, but happy to be here. It's just one of those things that really put in perspective. So this year, for example, we're going to close, after Christmas, we're going to stay open. We're going to do our catering. We're going to close up until the first week of January. I had to make changes in my life in order to live, right? Working all these holidays, just what my dad said.
What's it
And
for?
what's
Basically,
it for, right?
what's it
If
for?
you don't have your health.
Right.
Yeah. If
You
you
know,
can't enjoy it, if you have to just work and there's no part of your life that
right.
you're just saying, I'm gonna enjoy a vacation with my wife. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take the kids to to the one of the national parks or
Yeah,
Disney
and that's
or
what I
whatever.
told my kids. This year we're gonna take them on vacation that week, and enjoy the kids. My kids are 8 and 10, so I wanna make sure I enjoy them. They're at a good stage now before they begin to hate me at one point, right?
You got about another 3 years before they
Okay,
Yeah.
know everything.
good to know.
Before they
So,
become
so
omniscient, you got about 3 years before that.
yeah, so we'll do our Thanksgiving catering. We'll do our Christmas, and when I say Christmas, the 24th.
Sure.
The Noche Buena. We don't not do too much for the 25th, and we're gonna do that and take off. And don't get me wrong, I love doing the catering. This past year, we did 110 turkeys for Thanksgiving, the day of. It was 60 smoked, and the rest were oven roasted.
Wow.
And it's a lot of responsibility. So I did, we did all this catering a month after my heart attack because we had already taken half the orders. And I told Michelle, I can't call people and tell them, we're not going to have your Thanksgiving meals this year.
Right.
Right.
It's a big responsibility. That's 100 tables potentially that you could ruin their Christmas, right? If you, so I took.
I wouldn't feel bad about ruining their Christmas. I'd be like, listen, I survived a heart attack. You can buy a Publix turkey. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
like
well,
these things are not equal.
No,
It's
has
it,
that-
it,
no,
it was actually like 45 days because October 2nd to Thanksgiving, and I have a great staff. So the staff help more than ever. Because I would get tired. Your first 3 months after a heart attack, I would have to come sit, and it's not my usual. I'm used to just running, and then I would be like, okay, I need to take a break because I just my heart wasn't there yet, and luckily it is now, and I'm exercising a lot, and Michelle's taking care of me, and like I said, just blessed to be here and enjoy life now, and I guess that I tell that to everybody, and advice is just enjoy it because you never know. I almost felt it in 2 seconds, gone, and want to make sure I enjoy it now.
Harry, what is your life like now after that? Like not just what changes do you make, like how do you feel? Like how are you?
Luckily, I feel great. Some days I get a little bit more fatigued. I take 5 pills a day. Eventually, the doctor said I don't have to take them for the rest of my life if I, continue losing weight and being healthy and exercising. But we opened Smoke and Dough, right? So it was already delayed for so long because of the pandemic, paying rent. And we opened in January. So my heart attack was in October, so we opened in January. And we needed to open in the sense that we weren't going to be able to continue affording, paying the rent, and we had hired staff. And once I hired staff, I needed to make sure I had hours for them and work. So they worked at Empanada Harry's for a little bit until we got open here. And we're working a lot, but I'm taking breaks. I hired really good people, really, really nice staff. I have a guy with me that's been with 5 years, my right-hand man who, is there for me. And Michelle, man, Michelle could do everything I could do. Michelle could season briskets, trim, take them out of the smoker, slice, like you name it. And
I will say I almost thought about inviting Michelle rather than you on the show because
she'll be more interesting. I'll tell you that.
because you guys really are a team. Like of a
Yes.
lot of the restaurants that I've seen, one person does front of the house and back of the house, but you guys literally are in tandem. It's like these,
Yes.
like these twin atoms. Like you're both doing the thing, and you're both doing the smoking, and you're both going to barbecue camp.
Yes.
Like you're both. And I think that you guys make a really great team. And
Yeah,
so
she's my rock and keeps me going. I do everything for her and the kids, right? That's what I always tell them, and I always say, God gave me a second chance because my kids and my wife, those are maybe that's what kept me, going, and it's nice when you have that because there's not too many mom and pop places, that and that it's hard, to open a business, especially from zero. It's not only is it a lot of money, but it's a lot of stress. And I think that all that stress, constructing Smoke and Dough, is what led to also, the heart attack. It was very stressful. Michelle and I during the pandemic, we were scared when March, 2020 hit. We're like, wow, are we gonna lose Empanada Harry's? Our Smoke and Dough might not happen. And Michelle and I slept. And when I say slept, I mean we were here every Saturday night from March to October smoking because we didn't have the kitchen, so we were smoking outside, and we needed to man the smokesters, and we were here every night. It was the only way we were going to survive, and we sold out every Sunday. And I kept thinking this might be the last one, and when we were sold out, we were like, okay, well, we'll keep doing it every Sunday, and we did that from March to October, and that's what kept us afloat. And that's when I told Michelle we were going to have hot dogs and barbecue, and I told Michelle, forget it, we're going all in on barbecue. This is what people want, right? And yeah.
And I know you were worried that people wouldn't get it. And as far as the because the barbecue that we're so used to, like you said, is like Shorty's barbecue, where everything it feels more like long grilling. You know what I mean? Versus like barbecue, which is really like 200 degrees, cooking it for 8, 12, 15 hours. Versus like a grill out that you do in in your backyard. It's a totally different monster. But it sounds like people have gotten it. People get it.
People have gotten
busy,
it,
right?
and the staff does a great job, explaining it too. Because sometimes we run out of brisket, and people are like, "You can't just do another one," and you have to explain. The brisket goes in the smoker. Even if I wanted to, it won't be ready until tomorrow. So it's not una palomilla, vuelta y vuelta, and let me take it out.
Right.
So we've gotten
barbecue.
I'm sorry.
It's not like a churrasco. They just throw it on the
right. So we've had to explain it, and then little by little people understand it, and for the people that get it, it's awesome, and then the people that don't, like the other day, we had an older gentleman, an older Cuban guy, and he didn't know what brisket was, right? But he wanted me, and I go, eat the brisket, let me know, and he has it, and he says, oh my God, this is the most amazing, meat ever, right? And I explained it to them, and it's a joy to explain it. Because my mom was one when I started doing brisket. My mom was like, "¿Qué brisket?" Like.
I was gonna say, how do you say brisket in Spanish?
Brisket. So we've I see it in my parents how I had to explain it to them, and we do the same thing to people. And then once you explain it and people try it, they're wow. This is not like churrasco. Churrasco is great. But you get to try something totally different, and that's been very rewarding.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Harry, I think what you've done at both restaurants is really admirable, and I think that you really have created two great Miami institutions that I think that are like it's not a flash in the pan anymore. I think you're really doing something special, and I'm grateful for it. I know you saved Kendall. You single-handedly saved Kendall.
Luckily, obviously Chef Adrian was the pioneer, I want to say, and then Finca opened, and great places like Mr. and Mrs. Bun, Sweet Melody. These are amazing places. A lot of people include us in that list, and I think that the area demanded it and rewarded the people that took the risk of coming here, right? So I think that you're starting to see more and more. Not only is the rent more affordable, especially for the mom and pops, like Michelle and I. But people in this area, they want to eat and they don't want to travel to
the Gables,
or Brickaway, have a few drinks and then come back home. You want to be able to, which is great. You do it every once in a while, and coño, it's nice to have it, in your area too.
Yeah, like on a Tuesday, do I really have to get in the car and schlep to Wynwood or to
Right.
Totally.
Brickell? Like, wouldn't it be great to just go to Finca or
Mhm.
go to, get some ice cream at Sweet Melodies or go to,
Yeah.
go to Smoke and Dough and get some empanadas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that you've figured out, you're one of the folks who really figured out that feed the people where they are.
There is a market
Right.
for all of these, outlying suburbs. Vermont.
Yeah, of course. And you gotta also understand your market. For example, you go to Wynwood and the Gables, it's mostly QR codes, let's say, for menus.
Yeah.
That QR code doesn't fly here.
Right.
Right.
Like we have it, but people want the physical menu. So you have to understand your area and how you're gonna deliver it. Especially during the week, the weekdays, there's a lot to go. People
Right.
are busy working. Order of feeds four that brings enough food for four, and you go home and you enjoy your family, and it's just a different area. And once you understand it, it could work out for you.
Right. Well, Harry, before we let you go, we have to ask you to play our game.
All right.
You got to play Kiss, Mary, Kill with a food item.
Okay.
So we're gonna try to tailor it to you. Your truffle mac empanada is iconic.
Yes.
So Kiss, Mary, Kill, truffle mac empanada, cafecito rub brisket, and smoked flan. Who do you
Ooh.
kiss? Who do you marry? Who do you kill?
You made it very hard
All right.
for
Well,
me.
while you think about that, Amy, that smoked flan. So what he does, he takes a flan and he smokes it for 5 hours
my
in the
God.
smoker. And if I make a flan in the pressure cooker here, which by the way they're very good at home, but it might be like 25 minutes. So imagine the process. And when it comes out, he flips it, and the caramel is what has really
Picks
the
up the
strongest flavor. And and it's like this. If you're having barbecue and then you have it, you're like, this is a delicious flan. But if you've had nothing else, you don't have the barbecue flavor in your mouth. Like the next day, you have just the flan. It's like having dessert barbecue.
Yes.
Oh,
It is unbelievable. It is really one of the most delicious things that I've had down here.
Well, the first
So-
time we did it, I told Michelle it's either gonna be awful or really amazing. But I figured it was no in between, right? Because I go, it might taste, like we did a smoked chocolate mousse, and it was awful. It tasted like a burnt cigarette. But luckily the flan worked out for us. But I think I will marry the flan because
Wow, look at
it's
that.
always nice to have sweetness, right? You want the
Yeah.
sweetness.
Okay.
So it was Mary, Kill, and what was the other one?
Kiss. Kiss is
Kiss.
just a little
That's
fling.
Kiss the brisket, and I would kill the empanada of truffle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The Empanada Harry kills the empanada.
I've been making
That
empanadas
is-
for so long, and that brisket is just too good right now to kill it.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll defend
Yeah.
that. He's on to the new thing.
Yeah.
But fortunately, empanadas are still game changers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Harry, thank you for making the time for us. It was great catching up with you. It was great seeing you.
No, thank you guys. Thanks for having me, and keep supporting the hood here in Kendall.
Yeah. Thank
We
you
would.
for the culture of Kendall.
Yes.
Take care, Harry.
You too, guys. Thank you.
Empanada Harry.
Oh, what a nice guy.
Super nice guy.
Yeah.
Super nice guy and doing something really, doing their own thing,
Yeah.
doing their own thing, but really listening to Miami and doing it with a lot of skill, with a lot of dedication to skill, because there's a lot of people that have like a taste level, but don't have the skill to meet it, and I think that, a guy who's a baker understands temperature and heat and time, and that translates, I guess. So it's
Well, I
fantastic.
think one of the important things that he pointed to is that like there's a lot of restaurants in Miami that just try to do too much and they end up doing nothing well.
Right.
And I think what he's done with two different concepts at this point is he's taken two different kinds of food, the empanada and the barbecue, and he's just gone super hard for both of them and like done the most with both of them. And so I think that's where you find the art in cooking, is when you find something and you just create it, just do the hell out of it. And I think that's what he does. And the Kingdom of Kendall is very lucky to have him.
That's right. Yeah, no, they're fantastic. And you know what? Like, we don't need another Cheesecake Factory. We don't need a place that does, has a 75 item menu. Like, You want barbecue? You think of this place. I'm gonna go barbecue. You want some empanadas? You go to an empanada place. Like,
Right.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not being able to get everything everywhere.
Exactly. I think that's kind of I think that's the key to their success. Is they found what they're good at and they just went really hard for it.
Yeah. Well, Amy, have we reached the end of the show?
We have reached peak podcast today.
All right. We gave you all the Kendall you wanted today.
All right. I think I've gotten it out of my system.
Kendall. Mole, like mole. Kendall.
Mm-mm.
We gave you all your Kendall, folks.
Thank you.
All right. Let's call it a show.
All right.
Peace out, Amy. Till next week.